What's up everyone, JD here. Today we're going to be installing a backup camera in my 2013 Forester Premium. So I already installed the head unit that I wanted to update with Apple CarPlay. Both the previous Pioneer and the current Pioneer that are in here already had the backup camera option. I just never got around to installing it. So let me show you what we got and then I'll walk you through how I'm going to do this install. So I apologize for the close-up, but there's the overall shot of the Forester Premium. What we got here is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but got good ratings. And the main thing that I was looking for was just a factory install. So I wanted something that was going to look very factory when installed, and it had that type of profile. Basically, where we're going to install it, we'll drill it. We'll take that top bolt, sandwich it down, and all that'll be exposed is the camera itself. It came with all the necessary hardware to hook it up, and I'll explain how this gets hooked up as we walk through the process, but it is actually pretty simple. Don't be too intimidated with this install, and it does have pretty clear instructions actually in here of what you want to connect and disconnect depending on how you want this camera to operate. I'm going to leave it as default because I want it to be as wide an angle as possible, and I believe the default is a little bit wider. It doesn't really show a ton, but what you can really just tell is how far up and down, and then side to side you can see you got a little bit more on that camera. It is supposed to be 1080p. Hopefully that will really shine through. Let me go ahead and open this up and just see if you can tell what the other connecting wires do. So it's saying to disconnect the green. If you want to disconnect the AHD, it says to disconnect the white if you want to get rid of the parking center lines. This particular one, the red one, changes where everything's located. So if it's looking like everything is lined up on the wrong side based on the type of signal, you just got to cut the red wire from the default, and that's located here. It's really, really small. All right, let's go ahead and get it started. We're going to start by getting into the back and mounting the camera. All right, so for mine, I am gonna just go above the license plate here, and we're gonna go ahead and open it. All right, and then with it open, the object here is going to be to remove this entirely so that you can get in here where the backup camera needs to go. You're gonna also wanna remove these arms. You're gonna wanna remove the brake cover, and that's so that you can get into this hose here and run the wire underneath here and into the plastic that mounts under here. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and remove the plastic here and peel this plastic back. You'll need to take that cover off, and you'll need to take this bolt out, and we're going to go ahead and just get this out of the way. Once you have this popped off and peeled back, you should be able to run the wire here to this backlight. We're going to use this reverse light, and I'll show you which cable you're going to want to hook that up to. So let me go ahead and get all this removed, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that we have all of those parts removed from the inside, my goal is to be mounting it here, caddy to the switch that opens the hatch, and then kind of using the factory location. So the next thing that you're going to want to do once you have all of these parts removed, I'm going to do my best to show this to you guys, is remove the wiper blade assembly here. So go ahead and disconnect your power cable for that. And then you'll go ahead and remove these screws and slide this out carefully to make sure that you keep track of any parts that are assembled here on the motor for the rear wiper blade. Okay, now with that motor unscrewed, I just kind of rotated it, let's call it 90 degrees to get it out of the way. Next, you're gonna want to disconnect these wires here so that you can remove the lighting, and then you're gonna wanna hit these 3 bolts. Let's see if I can, 1, 2, and 3. That should allow you to take the outer housing off. If I missed any bolts as we're taking this off, I'll circle back. All right, so I did miss these screws that are here and then here. So you can see where the holes are. See those holes there, those 3? And then here, and then that one there. So just to kind of show you, when you take the part off, these are the screws and the fasteners in between the screws that you're going to need to do. And then when you take it off, it's going to look a little weird. My light is sort of hanging. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't hit my light. There we go. So once you've removed it, it's going to be this part that's exposed, and your wiring is going to run through there. So if you want, take a chance to clean that. If not, where I plan to mount is directly, oops, sorry guys, it's sliding around on me, directly behind here. So I'm going to be going in right there with the mount on this one. So it's going to be really, really tight in there. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it up. I brought the light. I'm going to measure it up. And my goal is to go just back there. So let me grab my drill bits and we'll get started. All right, I did a tap hole. I just want to see how close it is. So what I'm going to do is back the bolt out, threading bolt. Just going to carefully feed it over those wires. You can see it has like a little cutout to make sure that you can get over all of that. And then I'm just going to feed it through here, rerun the wires back through. I want the hole to be as tight as possible. Oh, I know I forgot to do one thing. Hold on, guys. The little adhesive shield on there, I did forget that as well. All right, so I popped the hole out. We're going to carefully remove the cover so that we're not taking the adhesive off. Let me go from the other side. And this is just a nice way to ensure that it's kind of sealed up, preventing any like flowing water from hitting on it. And then once you have your adhesive exposed, just go ahead and run your wire through it. Shouldn't meet too much resistance, guys. All right, and then just drop that on, line it up as good as you can. And that'll create a little bit of a barrier. And then just drop this, oops. Next, we're gonna run the wire through here. I'm gonna set my camera on there to make sure that we don't have any issues scratching up the lens or anything crazy. Okay. And then we should, if I made enough room, okay, I didn't. So I definitely need to go up a size in the drill bit. So we're gonna open up the hole just a little bit more. Like I said, I wanted to be cautious and make sure that I didn't go too big. Okay, so mine, I cut it a little tight. So I ended up taking out these screws here and here. Let me close this up so I can show you guys a little bit better. And then once I got it installed, I did end up kind of threading the camera into it. So the camera's mounted in a spot that I'm happy with, and I'll tweak it and adjust it there. But let me go ahead and get this back assembled. I'll throw it back onto the car and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so we have everything wired. It's a little short, so I went straight across underneath instead of over like there. It should be safe down here like this. And then I ran it along here and then cut the angle up in here. I had to split this open to feed it, and I wanted to make sure the wires I needed access to would be exposed. So now we're gonna go ahead and reinstall all of this. All right, in this particular phase, I ran the wires along this side, and I'm gonna tuck everything in here. It was a little too tight to run it with the connector on it. In hindsight, I would probably say run it from the deck this way. You'll be able to get it in there a little bit easier, but the cable's gonna drop out right there. I'm gonna run it along with this cable here, and then we're gonna take this light out and we're gonna connect it to the brake lights. The other thing that I'm noticing is the ground and the power wire are actually a little bit too short, so I'm gonna have to grab some of my own cable and extend that out. All right, so I have the power wire as the white line going into the power line of the reverse light. So when you put it in reverse, the computer sends power to the reverse bulb, which will then send the signal both to the camera to cut on, and also it'll send a signal to the head unit to let it know that the camera's been cut on. And in theory, that is what, or in practice, that is what'll actually cause the camera to then cut on and cut everything else off. So power wire sending a signal to the camera when this light comes on, and also sending a signal to the head unit to let the camera know to cut on. All right, so I will show you after I hook it up how I ran the wire. Since I'm here, I just want to get this done. These are all little pops. They actually make a really nice tool for this, but if you're really careful, you can put some masking tape on like a Phillips head or something like that, or flatheads, not Phillips head, and you can pop that off relatively easily without doing any damage to it. It's going to be these 4 screws to remove the head unit, and then I'll show you how it's wired. All right guys, I went ahead and finished the wiring. So for mine, it was very clearly labeled. So the rear video camera in, and that's where this went. The audio signal went here into the reverse, nope, yeah, reverse gear input signal. Sorry, I had to look at it off camera, my apologies. And then the ground wire, I ended up just merging into the factory harness ground wire to make sure that that worked. So I'm going to tidy all this wire rat's nest up because I was waiting to get this part of the install completed, and then I'll show you the signal. And my wife came out here already to make sure that everything was working correctly. And I will say I did have to cut the green wire in order to get the signal working for my unit. So just keep that in mind. If it comes up no signal, go to the troubleshooting guide. It was very helpful, and that really made it easy because I was like, oh, no signal, let me go check. I made sure and checked that it was plugged, and then I looked at the troubleshooting guide, and the troubleshooting guide said to cut the green wire. As soon as I did that, it worked perfectly. Let me clean all of this up, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. My apology guys, I forgot that when I hooked up the Bluetooth to the stereo, it wasn't going to work. So what I'm showing you here is everything is installed. The wiring has been completed. I basically routed the wiring behind the air conditioned vents here down underneath the dashboard. So when I put it in reverse, you can see the camera is installed, engaged, and working. And then as soon as I put it back in park, the screen cuts back on to the stereo. And then for the wiring, I just ran it under the dash, underneath all of the covering hardware Although this one looks weird, but that's how it came out. And I checked the other side just to make sure. It's been a little while. Ran it underneath this post here, just tucking it as I went. Didn't really uninstall anything. Same thing here. Ran it under this post, ran it under the seat, and then behind this armrest here, or back support. And then one thing I do want to point out on the camera, it's going to be a little hard to see here, is I did, while my wife was helping, rotate this to get it even, and then it comes with a little Allen key here that you tighten the camera down, and what it does is that Allen key pushes it to the other side of the ball, the housing, and then it locks it into place. But it's a very clean mount. I feel like it looks very OE. Another thing that I want to point out is I did adjust. I pointed the camera, I think towards the passenger side, like pushing here to get it to the passenger side to center it up a little bit, because I think when I rotated it around, I kind of had it coming this way, or maybe when it tightened down, it pushed. So it twists the camera like this. So rotating it back out like that allowed that signal to straighten up. Now I'll show you on the inside, everything buttoned back up very easily, lots of space there. Now for this one here, I would say run it backwards, run it from the front of the car to the back so that the aux signal, the camera signal cable is underneath of there. I couldn't, it was too thick to run through here. So I did kind of slit it open, tighten it up to fit it, and ran it back out here. Should, you know, do a good job keeping the moisture out of there. No issues whatsoever. You can see where the water runs up on there, but I really don't, truth be told, run into a ton of water issues like that, and it will drain out of the bottom. I did peel back here all of these parts to loosen it, to install it. I ran it back through here and took the light off, hooked up the signal to the backup camera here, and then I just ran it along the top here underneath all of this plastic. Sorry, I need to clean it up a little bit. And it doesn't look like, yeah, it doesn't look like that armrest is seating in there. So I'm glad I walked through this with you guys. Let me see if I can fix that. So it looks like, yeah, there we go. So this part here wasn't seating correctly. And again, I already told you that I ran it there. So just taking you through a final look at the install. As you can see, it is tucked pretty much like a factory installed camera here underneath the Subaru badge in the back. And all the wiring, as I mentioned a little while ago, running through the hatch itself, down along the side of the car, underneath the protective plastic that hides the factory wiring, under the dashboard, under the steering wheel, up through the back of the unit. And I just wanted you to see basically what it would look like if you were to use it on a daily basis with this Pioneer unit with the Apple CarPlay. So once started, takes a moment for the unit to start up. This is not uncommon for anything running any type of Apple CarPlay software. Once it's started, apologies, I just, okay, you can ignore this, it'll go away eventually. It'll default to whatever program you're running. I forgot I had the music going, so I had to pause it. And then once you go into reverse, you can see not a huge delay. It's pretty quick to go to the backup camera. Really clear picture. Everything I feel is lined up nicely, looking like it's OE. And then putting it back in park, no signal, converting back to the factory unit. And that's it. That's the full install of the rear view camera on my Subaru Forester. Again, my model is a 2013. It may vary slightly depending on what model or vehicle that you're looking to install. I'll have everything linked down below, the head unit, the camera, some extra wiring in case you need some more length. And the only thing looking back that I would say that I would do a little bit differently is I would just run from the back of the actual head unit where the cord's a little bit thinner. I would run that all the way through so that you can get it up through that hatchback weatherproofing stripping. the aux cable connector itself was just too thick to run it down through there. What I ended up doing after that is I did put a little bit of silicone where I had put the slits just to make sure no water would go through there, and that pretty much wrapped it up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it's very different from my usual content, but this again is the reason that I did the name change to the channel. It isn't daily carry gear, but it is daily gear that I use when I drive into work, always using the Apple CarPlay. When I'm traveling somewhere I don't know where I'm going, I use the Google Maps through the Apple CarPlay. The backup camera is extremely useful backing in and out of spaces, and I'm really happy with the install. The camera was very affordable, and it was probably honestly about an hour and a half to a 2-hour job with me editing it and recording, etc., setting up the camera. You know, it added a little bit of time onto that, but just doing the job itself, you know, it is very manageable. Take your time, follow the troubleshooting guide if you run into any issues, and you should be good to go. Thanks for hanging out to this point of the video. If you enjoyed it, leaving a like helps. Using those links really helps the channel. Special thanks to my channel members out there. You guys are amazing. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. I'm out of here, guys. Catch you next time. Peace.